I think if I hear you call me Becky one more time, six-pack, I'm gonna pop your tops. All six of them.
Who are you?
Once again, welcome back to another review. This is another paid request, this time from Jose Ballard. Thank you so much for that. For those interested in requesting pretty much any type of video, you can send it either directly to my PayPal or join my Patreon. Both links are down below in the info box. Now this is for Death Race 3, Inferno, another direct-to-video film, which is a sequel to Death Race 2, and Death Race 2 and 3 are prequels to the Jason Statham 2008 film. So yes, this, as well as Part 2, takes place before the events of, again, that Statham flick. And I think this is one of those movies, like the second film, that I want to say it was hard target to. This director, I think I talked about that movie, and I just assumed some of these... I know, this is the guy who did The Condemned 2, The Marine 2, he did Hard Target 2, terrible fucking movies, and based on his track record, I think I said in that review, I'm assuming Death Race 2 and 3 are pretty damn bad too, because you follow this pattern and this succession of movies that are poor quality. But I would say, in a weird way, I guess this is his best films, maybe because... And they're not even perfect. They're far from perfect. There's issues with some of the editing, the way certain scenes are cut. They're pretty brainless, mindless entertainment. But at least with Death Race 2 and 3, the director, maybe he just he got excited to do these type of races, and a lot of it's done practically. I didn't notice a ton of CGI. And you get some nice moments with its low budget during these car chase sequences, during the death racing scenes. And maybe that got him excited or focused or to do a bit better on these films compared to the rest of the director's track record. So I think I just assumed Death Race 2 and 3 would suck. And yeah, they're not 5-star movies. I mean, they're maybe 3-star movies, but I mean, Luke Goss, I don't mind. He is a bit of a discount Jason Statham, but he's okay. You have Danny Trejo coming back, and Danny Trejo in the second film, he's pretty decent. I mean, I think he's used a bit better here than in some other movies. The fact that they're prequels, I think... How do I put it? The story is that, like I said, follows the second film. Luke Goss has been disfigured, and now he's wearing the Frankenstein costume with the mask. Ving Rhames, he's the owner of this corporation. Ving Rhames is not in it much. He's in it at the very beginning and at the very end. So as a owner of his corporation, there's this hostile takeover being done by this billionaire played by Dougray Scott. If you don't know who Dougray Scott is, he was the bad guy in Mission Impossible 2. He was the guy who was going to be Wolverine in X-Men. They hired him. But Mission Impossible 2 went overboard in terms of the shoot, the schedule, so he couldn't take that role. And I think that would eat at him every fucking day. Right, Hugh Jackman, outside of X-Men, he hasn't had a lot of success, but he found success with that character and a shitload of money and fame. And Dougray Scott, I guarantee you, he looks at that and goes, if I just didn't do this fucking Mission Impossible movie. A Mission Impossible movie not many people talk about, remember, honestly. Whether you like the film or not, not a lot of people bring up Mission Impossible 2. Even when they're talking about John Woo films, let alone the Mission Impossible franchise. That he did get Wolverine. Great, I think Hugh Jackman was the better casting. I think it worked out for the best for the fans, but I'm just saying for that actor, I bet he eats at him a lot. And he plays the villain. And, I mean, as the villain, he's either... I've seen much worse. I thought he was okay. Luke Goss gets his face fixed, which made me go, well, then that's kind of, what was the point of fixing his... What was the point of damaging his face if in the next one he was just going to get his face fixed anyway? Like, is that... There's a couple things that you go, wonder why they did that. Like, again, they probably fix up Luke Goss's face because Luke Goss wants his face to be shown, and, you know, we don't want to have all this makeup on him for the whole time. But I'm like, then why did you do it in the first place? You could just have him wear the mask or get his body burned, but he wears the mask and because he's told to do, I don't know. Or half his face, but whatever. So they fix his face up. Now Dougray Scott has taken over Death Race from Ving Rhames. Ving Rhames is pissed about that. And Dougray Scott wants to monopolize Death Race, put into much more markets, be a bigger sport, takes everyone to South Africa, and it's going to be a desert race. And that made it at least a little bit interesting. It was a different environment for Death Race. I did appreciate that. And at the end of the day, I think the reason I didn't mind the film, just like the second film, it was a fast-paced movie. There's energy to it. Maybe a lot of stupidity, but there's a lot of energy to it. There are times where the editing is a bit too quick, but it's almost as if the director got better as the movie went along with the action. Because as it kept going, oh, he knows, slow it down. Use slow motion when it's needed. And you get some nice moments of good impact and some of the action bits. So if you like car chases and demolition and cars blowing up or flipping over in slow motion, he does better in those things than he does with the fights. And I think like this director's not really the best when it comes to shooting fight sequences. Now, a lot of people in the second film comes back. There's the one guy whose name is Liss. He's a smaller guy, as in he's very shy, and he's always talking about listing all sorts of stats. He's pretty much in every Death Race film. Danny Trejo comes back. The Luke Goss's girlfriend, she comes back. They do this weird thing, like, there's this fight happens, this fist fight after a race. Luke Goss's mask gets punched off, and the crew find out that it's Luke Goss, and they're so shocked. And I'm like, wait a minute, at the end of the second film, at the end of the second movie, they knew it was Luke Goss. She says a line, and then he said a line that she recognized, and she did this smile. And the list goes, yeah, maybe, I forgot Luke Goss's character's name. Maybe he's not dead. As if they have an inkling that this is Luke Goss. And then they negate that. So it's like the I I don't think they knew they were gonna make the Death Race 3 when they did Death Race 2. But then, it was not that bad. It was actually decent. It probably rented a lot of copies for people, and then they made part 3. At least it goes at a fast pace with a bit of energy. It wasn't boring at all. There's always something happening on the screen. As I said, Luke Goss is okay. I've seen much worse. I've seen better, but I've seen much worse. Yes, again, he's a discount Jason Statham, but he's better than like John Cena or Randy Orton or The Miz or the guy in the next film I'll talk about, Death Race 4. Which really doesn't have a lot to do with this. Except one, well, technically 2 characters return, but I'll get to that. Granted, some of the fights are done a little bit better than they were in part 2. Some fights are okay, some are a bit too quick. Like, the worst offense to that is this interesting idea where a bunch of women have to go into this gladiator-style trial where they have to fight each other, called the Navigator War. That's the worst part of the action. I would say that's the worst action scene in the film. Because the girls are fighting each other. It's very snip, snip, snip with the cuts, the edits. It's confusing. Granted, there's some violence, flamethrower fun, some blades. But it's like, calm down during some of these fights, Mr. Director. For fuck's sake. But when they get to the racing, it gets better. The racing through the sand, there's explosions, mostly practical. I mean, Danny Trejo himself literally goes, fuck logic. That's kind of this movie, fuck logic. Fuck logic, and you just sit down and you have, for 90, 100 minutes, and you let the energy of the film take you, and maybe low expectations. I had low expectations with this in the second film. And there's some B-movie fun. Like, they get this GPS thing so they can be followed. One guy tries to run it. The bad guys, Dead Ray Scott, shoot a missile, and the guy blows up. Practical, big bloody explosion. Robin Chow comes back. Liu Kang from the 90s Mortal Kombat, because he was in the 2008 Death Race, and these are prequels. He comes back as the character 14K. He did some decent moments. And technically, you say he did more decent moments in racing compared to the Jason Statham film. There's just 1 or 2 moments where he's blowing up cars. Like, he blows up a car while the song, da-da-da, a radar love, da-da-da-da. There's a song called Radar Love. I thought that was kind of a nice choice. There's this female racer named Olga, who's a bit of a, she gets a nice badass moment. I mean, yeah, there's not really much to their characters, so it's not like you care about them, but just like this is one guy named Psycho, and he's kind of funny, because he's talking to his navigator. Oh, yeah, you want to fuck me now? Wait, what? You really want to fuck me now? He got some chuckles out of me, this guy named Psycho. I did Olga, she has a nice moment where her car's upside down. One of the bad guys are chasing after her. She shoots the truck, it is a nice flip explosion. And then Luke Goss jumps his car over it. I'm like, again, there's some nice, decent, practical action scenes in this. It is one of those films that, for a direct-to-video, direct-to-VOD, however you want to call it, movie, like this in the second film, sadly, they have more stuff to them in a Steve Plan 2, and a Steve Plan 3, and Bad Trace of Sylvester Stallone, or the countless Bruce Willis direct-to-video films, or the countless Steven Seagal direct-to-video films. And that's kind of my comparison to direct-to-video market. It's nowhere near Blood and Bone, Michael Jai White, Undisputed 2 and 3 and 4, Isaac Florentine stuff. Nowhere near that. Nowhere near Ninja's Shadow of a Tear with Scott Adkins. But it's a fuckload better than Welcome to Sudden Death with Michael Jai White. Or again, pick any Bruce Willis direct-to-video film. Or 50 Cent. Or Stallone's, like, again, Bat Trace, Backwash, more like it. Steve Plan 2 and 3. There's at least... The editing could be better, and I would pick a more preferred director who could be more consistent. Spoiler alert, 3, 2, 1, spoilers. You get to the ending, and again, you may not agree with the logic, but could you find out that after the beginning, Luke Goss and Ving Rhames started to work together and form a plan to fuck over this billionaire, and the series of events happen where they have to fake Danny Trejo's death, and there's some nice moments at the end where Luke Goss is driving and shooting at the guards. He did practical blood squibs when he's shooting the guards, and he's in the car, he's got a machine gun. And they fuck over Doug Ray Scott. And then there's that question of, wait a minute, Luke Goss, he becomes Frankenstein. That's a character who dies at the beginning of the 2008 film. That means Luke Goss is going to die. No, they fixed that where they fuck over Doug Ray Scott. They burn him up. They disfigure him. And they switch places. There was this funny bit with Danny Trejo where there was a scuffle. He gets hurt. He's with this girl this lady who's a doctor, and she's like really into Danny Trejo. And she's like, I'm a big fan. Oh, okay. And so the one guy, the Liz, he's like, oh, I hope he's okay. He runs over and he finds Danny Trejo getting a blowjob. No, you don't see dick or anything, but he did a blowjob. It's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Oh, okay. And then, this girl, she's smiling, goes back to going down on Danny Trejo. Lucky guy. But in a weird way, I would say this is a better usage of Danny Trejo than Machete. Not in terms of action. Because, to be honest, like, Danny Trejo, he's at an age that he's a bit too slow for action. But just as, like, personality. Like, personality-wise, him in Death Race 2 and 3, I think, is better suited than... And the Machete was very straight and kind of boring, monotone. I like Danny Trejo has a lot more personality. It's shown a bit more in these Death Race sequels. Funny enough. And so they switch places with Doug Ray Scott. Granted, they make the one guy Liz stay behind, and it doesn't really make any sense. They tried to explain it because they have to explain how this guy's in the 2008 film. And it's like, it's very weak. Oh, I don't belong out there, and, someone needs to keep a record, and... But Danny Trejo, Luke Goss's girlfriend, they make it out fine. It's okay. I mean, at least... Compared to other prequels, I guess they are trying to keep it succinct with the original film. I guess that's more credit than some fucking films do. So it's Doug Ray Scott's character, the bad guy, who dies at the beginning of the Jason Statham movie. But again, yeah, there's logic issues you could go into, and some of the editing, especially in that female gladiator fight, is very inept and way too quick. The acting is okay, nothing to run home about. But at the same time, I didn't mind... Like, again, Luke Goss, I could deal with. Danny Trejo, I didn't mind. Ving Rhames, sad he's not in the film a lot. Didn't begin or end, but it's always nice to see Ving Rhames. And like I say, at least it kept with a pace and an energy that I wasn't bored. And at the end of the day, that's kind of what I want, is I don't want to be bored. And Luke Goss, I could deal with as a lead. That's another thing. I need like a lead that I really enjoy. I was like, okay, I can deal with this guy. If the lead does nothing for me, it could be very, very hard. Not impossible, but very hard for me to get sucked into your movie, in particular your action movie. That's just how my mind works. And in the South Africa, the desert racing made it a bit different, so it wasn't just the same tracks you saw in previous films. Because they're driving through little towns and shanties, and they're driving around, and it gives a bit more variety to it. And like I said, there's nice moments of B-movie fun action. Not too bad for a direct-to-video film. I mean, you could do a lot worse. You do a lot worse. You do better, but you do a lot worse. So Death Race 2 and 3, despite some things not working the best in transition, it's still a decent back-to-back experience. Again, maybe it's low expectations. Maybe, after... This was 2013 this came out, and you look at today. I mean, when Sylvester Stallone is making worse direct-to-video films than Death Race 2 and 3, whether you want to say that shows how decent these films are or how fucking bad Sylvester Stallone's picking his projects, that's up to you to decide. But yeah, didn't mind Death Race 3, Inferno. Didn't mind it at all. But yeah, there's issues I would fix up. But, and again, as Danny Trejo says, fuck logic. If you just had a decent time waster fun along with Death Race 2, like I said, you do a lot worse. So with that said, thanks for watching. We'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.